So in this lecture, we discuss the different schools of thoughts, means the various thinkers or the philosophers or management experts gives the different views regarding the management of an organization. And one of the important definition of the management, it is a process of designing and maintaining of an environment in which the individual working together in a group efficiently accomplish the selected aims. And one of the pioneer of the management thinker, that is the F.W. Taylor. He tells it is an art of knowing what you want to do and then seeing that it is done in the best and the cheapest way. And someone says the management is either science or an art. Why we can say the management is a science? Because some of the characteristics that are essential for a subject to be recognized as a science. The existence of a systematic body of knowledge with array of principles based on scientific inquiry. Principle should be verifiable and reliable basis for predicting the future events. The management as a discipline fulfill the scientific criteria. The application of these principles helps any practicing manager to achieve the desired goal. The management is a dynamic subject in that it is heavily from economic, psychology, sociology, mathematics and engineering. Management is a multidisciplinary in nature. That means a person who is responsible to manage all such activities, he should have the knowledge of various disciplines. So the science classified in two types. There are exact science and inexact science. As we study the subject chemistry, physics and mathematics, they are named as exact science because the results are accurate and every time we are getting the same result for a particular problem. Whereas in this case, in the management, it is not true. Every time the result may be changed depending upon the environmental conditions. That's why we can say that it is an exact science. Why it is called art? Art means application of skill in finding a desired results. Art is the way of doing things skillfully. Management is an art because of the following facts. The management process involves the use of practical knowledge and the personalities. That means someone says it is an art because the different persons have the different skills. They can take the work from others. So it is based on their skill. So it is a creative. Every moment, a person who is leading a particular projects, depending upon their creativity, he can accomplish the task accordingly. So in other words, we can say the management is both art as well as science. Now, as per our curriculum, the different schools of management thoughts, as we all know that the origin of evolution of management can be traced back to the days when man starts living in a group. History reveals that the strong man, that is earlier in ancient time, the name is Sardar, organized the masses accordingly to their intelligence, physical as well as the mental capacity. पुराने ज़माने में हम देखते थे कि कबीले होते थे और उसमें जो सबसे ताकतवर आदमी होता था, he can lead the masses as per their intelligence, physical and the mental capability. So the different thoughts can be categorized. The first one is the pre-scientific management period. Second one is the classical theory, the scientific management approach, the administrative approach, the bureaucratic approach. These are the philosophers given such classical theories. Say the scientific management approach given by the F.D. Taylors. He also named as the father of management. He was the first person who says that okay, if we run the organization in a successful manner, then we have to follow some principles. So you can say if we manage the organizations or if we can manage any task or a project scientifically, then later on the Henry Fayol says he adopted the administrative approach. Then Max Weber, he uses the bureaucratic approach. Then after the human relation approach, then behavioral science approach. So the different philosopher or the different thinkers, they use the different approach for managing the organizations. The behavioral science approach, the management science approach, and the decision theory. So these are the various schools of thoughts given by the different thinkers. The first is the classical approach. So it represents the traditionally accepted view about the organization. It signifies the beginning of the systematic study of an organization. So the classical theory concerns on organization structures for achievement of organization goal and develops certain principles of management. So this approach emphasizes on planning of work, the technical requirement of an organization, the principle of management, and the assumptions of the rational and the logical behavior. So this classical theory incorporates the three viewpoints. One is the Taylor scientific management, the second one is the Fayol administrative management, and the Weber's ideal bureaucracy. So these are the philosophers. They use the classical approach. So the first one is the scientific management approach. It came from the first industrial revolutions. It brought about such an extraordinary mechanizations of industries. The main contributions to this approach is the Taylor, Fayol, and the Gilbert. The Taylor, as we already know that, it is named as the father of scientific management. He was the first person who uses the scientific approach for managing a particular task or a project. So Taylor was the first person who insisted on scientific management. He made the first systematic study of the management. According to the Taylor, the scientific management is the substitution of the exact scientific investigation and knowledge for an old individual judgment or opinion in all matters related to the work done in a shop. The Taylor attempted a more scientific approach to the management as well as problem, and the approach was based upon the certain principles. First, he says that the observations and measurements should be used in the organization. The employees should be scientifically selected and trained. And due to the scientific selection and the training of employees has the opportunity of earning a high rate of pay. So a mental revolution in the form of constant cooperations between the employer and the employee should be given the benefits of the scientific management. He conducted the various experiments at the workplace to find out how human beings could be made more efficient by standardization of work. And some are the features of the scientific management are the separation of planning and doing. That means a replacement of old rule or the thumb methods. The scientific investigation should be used for managerial decisions instead of basic decision on the opinion or the rule of thumbs. He tells that instead of using the opinion, whenever any task is to be started or begins, we can use the scientific investigations, scientific selection and training of the workers. So the every organization should follow the some scientific system of selection of workers are to be trained to avoid wrong methods of work. That means before to assign any task to a worker for that it should be trained for that particular task. Say for example, if we want to or if we select a person's using a particular machines, then first he or she should be trained on that particular machines, how the machine should be work and how can they can complete the task with a minimum times without making any mistake. So it is the responsibility for their scientific education as well as the training. The cooperation between labor and management. It changed the mental aptitude between the two are called the mental revolutions. So he developed a theory called the functional foremanship based on specialized functions. That means every person who work on the shop floor, they are trained for some specialized traits. And the supervisor is also based on their specialized of functions. So in this system, the foremen were involved to direct and control the activities of the workers. So the worker works under the supervision of a supervisor of the scientific approach. The next one is the behavioral science approach. The knowledge drawn from psychology, sociology, and anthropology is applied to explain and predict the human behaviors. It lays emphasis on the study of the motivations, leadership, communication, group dynamics, and participative management. The approach is the methodology employed in developing the research in management. The behavioral scientists made the following propositions. The organization is the socio-technical system. The individual differs with regard to the attitude, the perceptions, and the value system. As a result, they behave different stimuli under the different conditions. The people working in organizations have their needs and goals, and that may differ from organization goals. The attempt to achieve fusion between organization goal and the human needs. A wide range of factors influenced in the personal as well as the group behavior of people in organization. The broad feature of this approach. It is an interdisciplinary approach. Integrate the knowledge of the different disciplines from the study of the human behaviors. It is an applied science which an objective applied various research to solve the organization problems. It is a normative science, not only suggests cause-effect relationship, but also gives way to solve the organization problem. It accepts the value of an individual as a thinking, feeling, and his needs and the motivations. And the important role in determining his behavior in organizations. It is a goal-oriented. It recognizes the goal conflict in the organization and suggests a reconciliation of the goals of individual and the organizations for better organizational climate as well as the effectiveness. Adopt system approach which takes into account all factors affecting the organizational behavior. The study of human behavior is of great significance in management. Individual is a product of social system. His behavior is not determined by the organizational forces alone, but many forces like the perception, attitude, social culture, environment also shape his behavior. So, to understand his behavior in the organizations, all these factors must be taken into account. So, study of human behavior in an organization is extremely important, but cannot be confined only to this area. There are other variables such as technology and environment which have an important bearing on effectiveness of an organization. So finding of the behavioral science not be treated as applicable to all situations, but it can be helpful and profitable, but care must be taken not to accept in all situations. That means in behavioral science approach, we should analyze critically the individual worker. Okay, what are the social backgrounds? What is the mental aptitude? So, before to assign any task, if we understand the behavior or the social culture of an individuals, then we can say that in a particular situation he can work efficiently if we fulfill the requirements or whatever the goal of a particular person's, if we study and analyze accordingly, and if we fulfill those aims or target of a particular person's, then he can work more efficiently